Hey everyone, welcome to my reflection on my 2023 New Year's resolutions. So I think New Year's resolutions get a bad rap because they're hard. I think if you do what you should do with a New Year's resolution, they shouldn't be hard. But it's not, I don't think, following through on a New Year's resolution that's the hardest part. It's making it a goal that is, one, substantial, that you care about it. It's something that you want to change about your life. And two, achievable and countable. I think those are kind of the two ways you can go wrong with a New Year's resolution. The first being either you make it too easy, or it's not important to you to the point where it's just not something that crosses your mind. And, I'm sure a lot of people make that mistake, but the majority of people who do not succeed with New Year's resolutions are those who fall in the latter category. They're people who make goals that are not doable, because the worst thing you can do is when you fail at a goal, feel like it's impossible to succeed. When you fail at a goal, you should be failing in a way that you can see a way you can succeed the next time. You should be failing in a way that even when you fail, you have moved towards your goal. And that kind of moves into countable. Because really, a vague goal that you could have is, I want to be a better person this year. What does that mean? If you don't know what it means, then you can't act on it. It's impossible to act on it if you don't concretely know what you're supposed to do. What is different? What are you changing from who you were before, who you wanted to be before, what you were doing before, to what you're doing now? And that's something where kind of my resolution from last year came in, is I wanted to be in better physical shape. And that's pretty difficult in practice, I guess, but pretty easy to quantify, because there's really two paths you can go about it. It's eat better or move more, work out your body, be more active. And the first, I think I was already doing a fairly good job. I have a pretty balanced diet. I don't drink soda. It's a lot of, there's stuff I can't improve, and I'm working on it. The main thing being breakfasts. I think if you look into common cereals that you find in the cereal aisle, they're really bad for you. So I'm working to being more healthy at breakfast. I'm finding alternatives to stuff like, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Honey Nut Cheerios even. Finding alternatives to that are more healthy. But the main thing I focused on last year was working out. And that's something where, I've had this experience a lot where I looked in the mirror and I'm like, I really should work out. Because I had before, and I liked how I looked and how I felt when I was working out. But it's so easy if you take a week, you take 2 weeks off, to be like, you know what? I'm starting this new habit of not working out. It's not feeling normal anymore. And I had fallen into that before. And my goal for last year was, this was my countable goal, was I wanted to work out 3 to 4 times a week. And my end goal was to work out half of the days in the year. And I thought, we can figure out the later months at some point. But my first couple months where I have adjustable dumbbells, I have room in my room, I have space in my space, that I just need to get working out. And I did. I think that was what I did in January and February. And it felt good because, that first burst is a little tough. But when you get going into it, when you start, into that routine, it's something I looked forward to every day because it felt like I was actually doing something. And it was something where, I'm working with my mind all day as a student. I get to work with my body. My body is not tired, even though my mind is. So I can just go to my space, my area, my room, and I can work out, and it feels good. And that's something that carried me through the first couple months until the weather got better. And that is when I worked towards running because, I ran cross country in high school. I wasn't very fast, but it's something that I'm really glad I did. And the training and working hard to get your time, that race day experience of knowing you put in the work and putting it all on the line to just shave a few seconds off was awesome. And I kind of had in my mind to train for a 5K. And that's kind of where my first hurdle came of this year. And that was my shoes didn't fit super well. I had new shoes that I tried out. I test walked them. I test jogged them. But I didn't test jog them for long enough. They're a pair of shoes that I can run for about a mile. And it's fine. But once I hit the mile mark, they're just slightly too thin, and I could feel the edges of my feet just start to ache and ache. And by the time I get back, if I did like a 2-mile run, I could hardly walk once I take my shoes off. And I'm like, I can't do this. I tried breaking them in, and they're just not breaking in. This is not a breaking in problem. So I stopped running. And, that could have been a flag to say, hey, you're done with running. Let's just stop this whole experiment. But I kind of went back to Old Reliable, back to my room where I was doing dumbbell workouts. And that continued for a little bit longer until probably May, when I started to say, hey, I've got a gym. Why don't I go there? So me and my roommate, we probably once or twice a week, we'd walk over to the gym, get a workout in, mostly for, squats, deadlifts, bench presses, anything that was a little bit more, you can't do as well with the dumbbells. And it was great because it was not too much time out of my day. It was a fun experience with my roommate. And, I had something to work towards. Like, I have this max on the bench press. And just because I'm not bench pressing during the week doesn't mean I'm not, working, supporting muscles and all that. So it was a lot of that's game day. That's when I do all my big lifts. And sometimes I'm not doing a big lift. Sometimes I'm, lower half, sometimes upper half. But that was kind of what the gym was for me, where I was happy with these dumbbell exercises, but they were pretty limiting, just with how much space and, the form factor. So, moving past probably May to June, that's when I did a lot of these workouts. And that's kind of when I hit a little bit of a skipping point, where I went on a road trip with my family, and we were out of town for a week and a half. And you would think, this would kind of screw with my workout routine. But I think one of the biggest proponents of me succeeding in this challenge is, I have a family who very much aligns with the belief that, being active, being healthy, being strong is something we value and something that's very important. So, on this trip, we did hiking. We did a lot of all that. But on days we didn't, we're staying at hotels, and those hotels might have a weight room. So what we do is we go to the weight room, get a lift in, and go on our way. So even though we was on vacation, we found time to lift. I thought that was kind of a super important development where, just because you're not at home, just because you're in an unfamiliar place, doesn't mean you can't continue to take care and nurture and grow your body and become more of what you want to be. And that was kind of that first half of the year very consistent of like a little bit below half of the time I'm working out. So I'm, half the time would be 15 to 16 days. I'm more like 13 to 14. So I miss a couple days here and there. And I'm, maybe a little bit below my goal. That's fine. July, August, September, those were, in some senses hard months for me because, I just graduated in May. So I was starting to feel some pressure of like, hey, you've graduated school. It's still summer for people, so don't worry yet. But you got to get a job. You got to get a career. So that was kind of July where I really grinded applications and working on, my resume and who I was as a career prospect. But at the same time, with so much free time, I was also working out a lot. At this point, I was at home versus my college apartment. So I was doing P90X for the most part. But that was good. It was a little bit more, I think, intensive than the dumbbell workouts I've been doing. And that lasted me through July and August. It was once September hit, then it was sort of like, what do I do? Because, July and August, I had a pretty healthy relationship with the gym, so to speak, where I was hitting now that 15, 16 range. September, when all my friends went back to school or had their own jobs, and I was sitting here still not having a career, I really hit the gym hard in September. I believe I had 19 workouts. That was the most I had all year in September because the way I felt was I don't want to do anything because I feel like anything I do that's not productive, I'm thinking about what I should be doing. And the gym was one of those places where I'm still like, I'm a programmer. I'm a computer science, computer engineering grad. I'm not working with my hands, with my body, all the time. So whereas my mind can get tired and exhausted from doing these applications and doing various projects, my body wasn't. So I had the energy to work out. And it was something that I looked forward to and I felt productive during it. So I actually worked out, I think I said it before, 19 times in September, which is a lot. I felt really good about that part of my life, at least. And that's when I started to get a little bit more into guitar as well, because that hits a slightly different spot with like mental exhaustion. What I do is I just go outside, sit on my porch, and I'd play guitar. It felt productive, but it was also very relaxing. So those two things kind of started to take over what I did. And that carried on in October, where for the most part was the same thing until about midway through, I tweaked my knee. And that's kind of when the year started going a little bit haywire. And it was about holding on for dear life. Because at the very end of one of my workouts, I was doing a twist move. I was doing some like MMA type spin around and punch. And I landed a little bit awkwardly. So I tweaked my knee. I fell down and I'm like, all right, I don't know if that hurts, but we're going to take it easy. So I went on and I did for the rest of the week probably, just stretches and, dynamic movements and just like really taking it easy. And the part where it really went wrong was that next weekend is I went to a pumpkin patch and they have all these activities at the pumpkin patch. And the biggest one, the one that doomed me, was the tug of war. Because you got to get into my headspace here where I had been working out and really focusing on being stronger and being better with my body for 9 to 10 months now. And I felt good about it. I looked in the mirror. I look good. I see my muscles growing. My grandma says, hey, how'd you get those big guns? I looked good. I felt really good every time I saw a horizontal tree branch. I'd go up and I'd do some pull-ups on it because I could do pull-ups now. I could do a bunch of pull-ups now. So I was like really, I still do, but at that point I was really like, oh, I'm way stronger than I was, and I got to show it. I got to prove that, like, this thing I'm working towards is, it's been worth it. And, that's something that maybe it wasn't to prove to other people, but for the most part, it was like, you know what? You have made progress. And it's not just in these, pull-ups. Like, what's a pull-up? Like a tug of war. You are now stronger than another human being. And that's when it kind of went wrong. I'm not entirely sure what happened. My knee was already feeling a little bit off, but I pull and I just start feeling a little bit of pain, probably a little more than a little bit, but some pain in my knee. And I'm at that point, probably for the next couple months and up until now, I really have taken it easy on my knee. So it's been 3 months. First month, I basically all I did was stretch. I took 2 weeks off, and then I just a little bit of stretching. And it was one of those where, I've hurt myself before, but it'll get better in a week or two. And this was one that just didn't. It continued. It subsisted. And it sucked. I like having gone from someone who obviously I did care about my physical movement and my body at the start of the year, otherwise I wouldn't have made a resolution about it. But having grown stronger, I realized how important it was to me and how important my movement was. So to have that like taken away and your mind starts running like, how long is this going to be? Am I ever going to get better? Is there always going to be pain? Is there always going to be mobility problems? And it was something where, it was very important to me, and it was very tough that I lost that. Luckily, at the point this happened, I had a whirlwind of end of October and November. See, I finally got a seasonal job. I had realized, hey, I got to do something that isn't just work out and play guitar. So, out goes working out a little bit, and in comes a seasonal job. And as soon as I get that seasonal job, I get an offer from an actual career and it says, hey, you're starting up in December. So I'm doing that. And then suddenly I'm working all of November at a seasonal job. So I'm working Black Friday stuff. I'm busy there. I still can do some stretches. I try. I'm still playing guitar because that hasn't changed. But, come December, and I have no free time, which is honestly perfect because if I had free time, I'd have time to think about not being able to work out as well as I could. So all through December, my knee was not getting that much better. It was a little better, but it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. So, there was these distractions that kept me occupied, but, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, it's been a month. Once you hit a month, you got to start thinking about, is something really wrong? So I had a normal checkup going on. I said, hey, doc, I've been a little concerned about my knee. It's been a month and a half, 2 months since I injured it, and I'm still having some problems with it. It still hurts when I do certain things. So he evaluated it, he checked it out, and he said, hey, it doesn't seem like anything's horribly wrong, at least from my initial observation, but there's a lot that goes on with the knee that if you wanted, I could write you for an MRI, and you could see if anything's wrong with it. And I said, you know what? It sucks to have to do an MRI. But this was a big decision I made was my health is important to me and my mobility is important to me. I want to make sure that whatever I do, I don't save a few bucks and sacrifice that. So I said, hey, I want to feel safe and I want to make sure that whatever happens, whether it's all right or whether my whole leg's screwed, I want to know what's happening so that I can work to fix it. So I got an MRI scheduled. I went through and I got the results back. And there's nothing major, which is awesome. But I had that in the back of my mind, like, if it's nothing major, why am I still feeling pain? It's 2.5 months from when it was probably 2 months at this point. A little over 2 months, actually, since it happened. And I'm like, well, what do I do? This doesn't make sense to me. So, I got the results back from the doc, and he said, hey, doesn't look like anything's wrong, but what you can do is check out PT, and at the very least, you can strengthen up that leg so that, the pain is going to go away when your leg's stronger. And that's something where, another thing, it sucks to have to take time out of your day to do PT, to pay for it, but it's something that is very important to me that I don't lose what I've gained. And that kind of brings me to the end of 2023, where it was a massive success on a lot of fronts, where I don't know the percentage of people that do their New Year's resolutions, but I'm among the people who did, and it definitely isn't 50%. So I'm happy, I'm proud of myself for that. It's something that I will continue doing in the future. But, it's not always easy. And that's something that, if I told myself back then, there'd be hurdles and all challenges, I'd probably still say yes, but I think I'm proud of myself either way, that I came through these obstacles, and I'm still, at the end of the day, happy with who I am, with what I've done. And this is something where, at the end of the day, reflecting on how I felt last year, I feel a lot better confidence-wise about myself, because I know I can talk about something I've worked hard in and I've succeeded in. And I care about, I spent a lot of time doing. I'm a lot more confident in how I look because, I'm in better physical shape. But most importantly, I'm a lot more happy with how I feel and how I move. There's just some form of joy that, when you pull up on a pull-up bar and it's just a fluid motion, you keep going, do a couple. When you are able to just do things, get up in a fluid motion, balance on one leg. That sort of thing is so powerful. And it makes me feel so strong and so alive to have worked out all year and be this strong. And even then, it's been 1 year. I'm not that strong. But I'm so much stronger than I was before. And a lot of that may be just confidence, but I can see that, I have changed, and I've changed for the better. And that's something that, it doesn't have to be working out. I'd recommend, if you find anything about yourself, something you don't like, something you wish you could do better. It doesn't have to be New Year's resolution, especially because it's 3 years past, or 3 weeks past. But just come up with accountable, achievable, but also positive goals that you can work towards to make that happen. That's something that I don't think I mentioned earlier about the positive goals. Because if you want to do, say, here's a negative goal. I want to be on my phone less. And that's something that's, I've been struggling with a bit, where I spend too much time on my phone. And the problem I've had for this year, this next upcoming year, which I might talk about in another video, is how do I turn this I don't want to use my phone into a positive, because the problem with negative goals is if you're trying not to do something, you need to work for 24 hours a day. If you're trying to do something, then it just has to be 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes can turn into 10 minutes, can turn into 15, can turn into 30. So turning your goals from a negative to not do something to a positive to do something can make it a lot more achievable, because really that's the most important thing. Is if my goal is to become a unicorn who can fly, that's a great goal, but it's just not achievable. So it's never going to get me anywhere. So unless you have steps to success, steps on the rungs, or rungs on a ladder, you're not going to succeed in your resolution, and you're not going to succeed in making yourself a better person. So that's my advice as someone who, 1 year in, I might give you an update next year on how I'm doing with the workouts still. 1 year in has seen a lot more happiness in myself, just because I addressed those flaws, and in that way, I really wish you the best of luck in doing that for yourself. Thank you if you've watched this whole thing. I don't know how you made it through. I had a lot of fun. I guess not a lot of fun, but this is something that's very important to me. The journey of self-improvement does not end with the end of the year, whether that be physically or my focus for next year mentally. But the video must end, because we're running on almost 30 minutes. So it's something that I could talk about for a long time, because this is important to me. And I hope that self-improvement's important to you. So if you're still here, why don't you drop your resolution in the comment, and if I know who you are, I'll beat on your door and make sure you're doing your resolution. No, but I think the big thing is holding yourself accountable. But if you are a person who thrives on other people's expectations, put it out there in the world. Tell your friends, and maybe they'll be disappointed in you if you don't do it. But either way, whatever gets the ball rolling, the important part is that at some point you get that ball rolling. Anyways, thank you so much, and goodbye.